Welcome into the garage area. This is our Las Vegas weekend recap show. Pretty windy weekend. Seemed like that came into play in all three series with some handling issues with those cars and trucks. It did seem to upset the balance quite a bit, and one of those things that guys complained about through all three races. Let's start with the Cup Series. Where did Ryan Blaney finish? My pick this week.
Third.
He finished third. That's a pretty good finish. Who'd you have again?
Larson.
Where did Larson finish?
Numero uno.
I won the race. So, really, my takeaway from all this is that if you want to know what's going to happen on any given race weekend, you tune into the garage area to find out from the actual experts. And first and third's a pretty good batting average when it comes to making predictions. Obviously, you get the 3 points with the win with Kyle Larson. It's pretty disappointing to pick the third place finisher and not end up winning, but hey, I won the first couple weeks, so I guess I got to get one somewhere along the line. Joey Logano started on the pole.
Without the gloves.
Without the gloves, that's a good point. Standard race issued gloves, standard SFI inspected gloves, and he was still able to sit on the pole. I know that he didn't have the gloves because NASCAR had them this week, so I'm not sure if it was an issue of so much not having the glove blocking the air coming into the race car, or if it was the lighter pockets that he had this week with that $10,000 fine that NASCAR issued him that allowed him to go as fast as he did and sit on the front row. Kind of interesting how when the driver is sponsored by the company that's sponsoring the race, they seem to perform well in some aspect of the race. Pennzoil was also on Ryan Blaney's car as well, and he finished third, as we've already noted several times. Logano being on the pole, he's going to earn that nickname Front Row Joe himself now, I guess, because he started first or second on the front row in the first three races of the season. The last driver, he's the first driver to do so since the year 2000. Here's my trivia question this week. Who was the driver that started on the front row in three consecutive races in that year? I don't want you to answer yet, even if you know it. And we'll reveal the answer at the end when we get through talking about the Cup race. So remind me if I skip that. Don't bring it up. I just made some notes on the guys that kind of stuck out to me throughout the day. Christopher Bell, he brought out the first caution with a flat right rear tire. That seemed to be a theme through all three races, if I'm not mistaken. There was a driver that blew a right rear tire and spun around and brought out a yellow in all three races this weekend. He did actually recover from that flat tire and ran up near the front in the top 10 for a fair amount of the second stage, but then he ended up, toward the end of the second stage, it was like 9 to go, he ended up spinning around again, and he ended up finishing 33rd, 2 laps down. I don't know what happened when he spun there that he ended up so far behind, but he never recovered from that one, lost a couple laps.
Yeah, I remember they're talking on the radio saying to stay out, they weren't going to pit because they were going to try and, since they were a lap down after the spin, they were going to try and take a wave around. And Bell was complaining that they didn't think they could do it. So I don't know if we missed something there.
I'm not sure.
They stayed out and still had to pit and lost another lap. Or
I don't know if they covered that on the broadcast or not. I didn't catch it if they did.
Yeah.
Either way, Bell, that looked like he had a pretty fast race car, two separate issues, and ends up finishing way behind. I don't know exactly what that does to him in points this week, but definitely not a good result for him out of Las Vegas. Chris Buescher, he also lost a right front wheel. He didn't blow a tire. He lost the whole wheel. Yeah. Lug nut came off. Rim came flying off. The side of the door, the right side sheet metal or carbon fiber, actually split the tire in half, and it went down on the door like trying to split a piece of wood.
Usually it's like a lower A arm that splits the rim, and then the tire fell off. It was just jammed into the carbon fiber or composite or whatever it is.
Yeah, regardless, he was near the front. I mean, he was running the back half of the top 10, I'd say. But with the fact that a wheel came off on the racetrack, that is going to be a 2-week suspension for two particular team members of NASCAR's choosing. We don't know who those will be yet. I'm sure that'll come out on Penalty Tuesday.
It's usually a jack man and a tire changer.
Which would make sense.
Yeah.
I would think that would be who it ends up being. We'll have to wait and see who NASCAR decides. I think it's interesting that that's up to their discretion, but and maybe that's just so they can determine which tire changer is why that's worded that way. But
Yeah.
Makes sense. Either way, normally there'd also be a 2-lap penalty in the race, but because he pounded the fence and was done for the day, that was irrelevant. He hit the wall so hard that they actually had to bring out the welder and repair the wall. I thought that was pretty impressive. You don't see that too often. And put us under red flag for a little while. The only other thing about Chris Buescher is that he had the second longest DNF streak in the Cup Series, and this ruined that.
Non-DNF.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Second longest non-DNF series, streak in the Cup Series, and it was since Atlanta of 2023 was his last DNF. So I don't know who has the longest, but they did mention that on the broadcast that he had the second longest active streak. William Byron, he was a car that was really fast today. Looked like he was somebody that could compete with Kyle Larson for running up towards the front. And I was really nervous when I saw the 24 start to come to the front because I was like, man, that the 22 and the 12 started up front and they started to slide their way back. Actually, the 12 didn't. The 22 and the two other Penske cars, they started up near the front and started to slide back. And Larson took the lead, and the 24 was coming with him, and it was just like, boy, this is going to be a bad Hendrick-dominated day. My first thought was, I sure hope Ryan doesn't win this thing with his pick this week, and that's what ended up happening. Byron ended up with a huge piece of debris on his grill. It looked like it must have been a trash bag or something like that. It was enormous.
And when I first saw it, I thought he actually had old damage to the car, like the front end was caved in.
You know what I thought it was at first, and I don't know why, this wouldn't make any sense, but I thought it was actually somebody's vinyl wrap off their race car. Came off, and he drove into it. Must have been off the 44 car.
Yeah.
They don't even put a wrap on that one. But yeah, he ended up having to come to pit road under green. I don't know how many laps he lost. Probably 1.5, I guess. Because all they did was just pull that right off there.
Yeah.
He said his water temp was up to 350.
Yeah.
That's cooking. Definitely had to come down pit road for that. And pretty impressive that he was able to battle his way back to finish 10th, get a good finish after all of that he had to overcome throughout the day. Kind of disappointing, even though he ended up coming back to 10th, because, like I said, he had probably the second fastest car of the day. Really somebody that I thought was going to compete with Kyle for the win. Speaking of Kyle Busch, he was also really fast early. He led the second most laps of the day.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. I think Larson led something like 181 laps.
Yeah.
And Kyle Busch led 18.
18, yeah.
And he was the second most lap leader of the day. So that tells you that Larson was out front a lot today. Kyle, as I said, ran near the front, but he had a penalty for pitting outside the box. That's the final pit stop. Was it the final pit stop or the second to last? It was the one under green, right?
It was under green.
Okay, so that was the second to last.
Yeah, second to last.
The second to last pit stop, Kyle Busch came into his pit stall, slid through the tape marks, and ended up with a splitter on the line that tells you that you have to be inside of those white lines in order to have a legal pit stop. If the splitter was right on the line, that's a penalty. They didn't get him backed up in time, or at all. They just started to change tires on the car. That's automatically a penalty every time. I didn't write down where he finished. Do you know where he ended up? He had a pretty good car. It's along with Austin Dillon. They both ran pretty well. Not sure where Dillon finished either, but Kyle, that penalty definitely killed his day.
Austin Dillon ended up 16th.
Okay, that's a little further back than he was running.
Yeah, and Kyle Busch was 26th.
26th. Yeah. Just absolute killer when you get those penalties under green. The other guy that was running consistently in the top 10 was Corey LaJoie, and he stayed there most of the day, sometimes in the top 5. Looked like he might be an adjustment or two away from competing for the win even. 33 laps to go. He was the car that ended up spinning, bounced off the outside wall just slightly, and he brought out the final yellow that allowed everybody to come down pit road and make their final pit stops under yellow, and he ended up finishing 32nd. Austin Cindric was another car that stuck out to me only because he's had 2 good weeks in a row and was fairly high up in points. I think he was 4th in points coming into the day. Is that 3rd in points is what I have here. He started 3rd in the race, and him and Logano kind of had the same issues right at the green flag. They just started to back up, and I was obviously following Logano's issues closer than Cindric, but they ran pretty close to each other for the majority of the day, back half of the top 10, closer to 12th, 13th most of the time, and he ended up finishing 29th after he got a speeding penalty, and that is going to drop him from 3rd in the points to 11th after that. poor finish today, which is unfortunate because they had a car that was capable of running in the top 15 easily.
Yeah.
The same cycle of pit stops that Cindric got his penalty, Ross Chastain also got a speeding penalty, but it was a very different story for him. He ended up maintaining enough track position to put himself in position to take 2 tires on that final pit stop, and he was actually battling for the win at one point and finished 4th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good day for Ross Chastain. 2 cars, same exact penalty, speeding on pit road, same pit cycle, and you have a massive difference in where they finish from there. Bubba Wallace, he had a pretty decent day going as well, and then he ended up with an issue where a lug nut got stuck on the hub that they had to cut off, and he ended up losing 13 laps as they dealt with that on pit road, and he still had a pretty fast car and could run up there with the leaders as he was a lapped car getting caught in that traffic. And I thought it was interesting, and I know you commented on it too. There was a moment when under green before the final pit stop that Reddick was trying to run down Larson for the win, or for the lead at that time, and Bubba Wallace was behind him and just kept bump drafting him down the back straightaway and trying to shove him up to the 5 car. And it was working. He was starting to catch him before LaJoie spun, and they all brought it down. That might have been the final green flag stop that kind of broke up.
I think that's what, because Bubba tried to pit with him.
Yeah, he did come down pit road with him.
I think the way everything cycled out, I don't think they came together.
Yeah, I'm not sure what all happened there. I know that was the idea, and it was working out well. And it looked like toward the end of the race that might play a factor again, because as they were trying to battle for the win there, Reddick was closing the gap on Larson, running high. It was actually shaping up to be a pretty good finish.
Yeah.
He was reeling Larson in, and you could see that they were going to catch Bubba Wallace again as a lapped car. And they were talking on the broadcast how they were concerned that Bubba might try to interfere with a 5. I don't know that I would have been too upset about that because he is a teammate. And ultimately, at the end of the day, lap cars need to get out of the way.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. I have a lot of respect for what Bubba did. Instead of trying to interfere with the finish of the race, he ended up getting low, out of the way, letting Larson go by, letting Reddick go by, and then he tried to do the same thing that they were doing earlier, getting up there and bump draft Reddick, but he didn't have enough momentum to hang with them, and those 2 cars were screaming at the end of the race. The disappointing part I felt, not that it wasn't that Kyle Larson won, because he was very deserving of the win. He had the fastest car. Very talented race car driver. Had a good battle there at the end with Reddick.
Yeah.
The thing that I didn't like about it is the air wake. Because Reddick would have been side by side with him at one point. I'm not saying he could have passed him, but he would have been side by side, at least on his back bumper, had he not run into the dirty air coming off the race car. And that's the kind of the issue that I have with this package. I feel like Las Vegas is a track that could provide really good racing as a whole, and did for most of the day, in my opinion. I have no problem with this race other than the whole aero dependency downforce issue that we deal with every time we go to a mile and a half.
Yeah. I feel like it depends on the mile and a half, because races like Charlotte and stuff like that, I feel like are a lot better than what Vegas put on.
Yeah, I agree.
So, it's hard to like nitpick each track for certain issues and stuff. So, either you can't come out with 100 different packages each week you want to do something, but
I think ultimately the consistent theme in order to provide good racing is this is like right on the edge of this could be a really good show as far as the racing that we want to see. You just need less downforce. More motor, less downforce. That's to me, that's what it is. It seemed like tires played enough of a factor today. I was satisfied with that. That's usually the other complaint that we have, is that tires don't fall off enough during a race. And I felt like there was enough of an advantage there to get four new tires. And you could still hang near the front with 2 fresh tires. Yeah. But that was largely due to the clean air situation as well. So, yeah, it pretty much met my expectations for a race at Las Vegas. That doesn't, the box score of this race, so to speak, doesn't necessarily say that, because as we said, Larson won stages 1 and 2, led 181 laps, and ended up winning. And really didn't even have to battle with Reddick side by side by any means at the end of the thing. So, that's really the recap of the Cup race. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it than that. I thought it was a good race. Like I said, fastest car won, and pretty dominant day by him. Cool to see his kids out there on the front stretch with him after the race was over too. I always think that's neat.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to talk about from the Cup race?
No.
All right. Let's move on to the Xfinity Series. Parker Retzloff started P4, finished 35th. He was the first caution. He had a fuel pump issue, and that's what it was listed on the the timing and scoring afterwards, was that he had a fuel pump issue. All you saw was that it looked like he started to spin out, and Sam Mayer came by and clipped him, and kind of blew the left rear off the side of the car, and put a whole lot of damage on Retzloff's car. Hurt Sam Mayer a lot too. I think he actually ended up DNFing, right?
Yeah, he was out of the race at that point. I think Parker Retzloff's fuel pump issue was later in the race.
Did he stay on the racetrack?
I think he stayed on the racetrack. He wasn't running competitively or something, but
okay.
I think that's what it was.
Do we know what caused him to have the issue to start the race then?
I thought he just got loose and then Sam Mayer.
Well, I thought it was weird because because of the whole wind issue, we didn't have enough cameras up high to get up what happened. All you really saw was him sideways and then Sam Mayer clipping him.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't tell what caused the issue to start with, but that makes more sense if he had a fuel pump issue later down the road.
Yeah.
I just pointed out a couple drivers that I thought were noteworthy. Sam Mayer, as we talked about with that incident, pretty rough start for him to the season.
Yeah.
I think he's somebody that has a whole lot of potential. I expect this to be a big year for him, and it has not started the way that he's wanted it to at all. Shane Van Gisbergen, he finished 37th. That wasn't indicative of how he was running prior to the engine blowing. That's what caused him to be back there in 37th. I said that I expected Jesse Love to have a good run this week.
Yeah.
And to run top 5, maybe top 7 at the worst. Started 15th, finished 17th. So I guess
he ran within the top 15 most of the race, which is what I expected him to do.
Yeah, he was running in the top 10 most of the day, actually. And he kind of had some issues after the second to last pit stop, and that's what got him further back in traffic and wasn't able to recover from there. Eric Almirola, he was in this race, and that's really all I got to say about that. He was driving the Joe Gibbs 19, started 10th, finished 12th. Pretty quiet day. You didn't really hear a whole lot about him. You wouldn't even know he was in the thing if you didn't read the timing and scoring.
Yeah.
Justin Allgaier, somebody else that's usually a factor for the Xfinity Series Championship every year. He started in the back and ran into the top 10 all day and finished 10th.
Yeah.
Just seemed like once he was able to get in the top 10, he wasn't able to make any hay from there.
Yeah. I think he would have had a better finish if he tried some strategy on the final pit stop, staying out longer than everyone else, hoping a caution to come out.
Yeah, that did kind of hurt him.
He was running I think he was just outside the top 5, so it only cost him
3 or 4 spots.
So it was a gamble we're taking. To try
I agree.
If caution comes out, he leaves all those cars a lap down and stuff.
True.
So that was just a gamble on their part, and he only lost maybe at most 5 spots. So.
Hey, went in Vegas. The top 5 finishers, they were the guys that played the factor in most of the day. Chandler Smith, he looked like he was somebody that had a really good car. Won both stages. Really, it's coming to the end of the second stage there. He had a really impressive pass on Hunter Nemechek going down the backstretch. He set him up in 1 and 2 real well, got inside of him, passed him down the back straightaway, and was able to win the second stage, which is, if you're Hunter Nemechek, why would you battle for that?
Yeah,
the stage point means nothing to you, and it means everything to Chandler Smith. So they were teammates in this race as well. So that was a good. It was an exciting finish to the second stage and a positive result for that.
Yeah.
It just seemed like for Chandler Smith, they over-adjusted on that second to last stop, and he wasn't able to get back up front to the lead and battle for that. So that kind of hurt him. The final green flag stop, was kind of odd because it doesn't normally work this way. John Hunter stayed on the track the longest and actually grew his lead.
Yeah.
And typically you have cars that come pit, take fresh tires, they make up some of that time and close your lead up. And that wasn't the case for him. They must have had a screaming pit stop or something.
Well, I think his experience itself. I mean, he's racing the Cup Series all those years too. So I mean, he's been around a long time, and I think he just knows how to get on and off pit road better than everyone else.
That could very well be.
Of course, you got a Joe Gibbs pit crew also, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, he had a lot of advantages to run well. I was rooting for Chandler Smith. I was just hoping that he would get there.
yeah,
But yeah, it's John Hunter was definitely. You're right. I think the experience is what won him that race in the end. I thought it was a really good race overall.
yeah.
I thought it was better than the Cup race, and none of these 3 series races disappointed me at all
Yeah.
this weekend. I thought they were all good. But still, ultimately, I thought that there was less aero dependency in the Xfinity cars, and that's really what makes good racing to me. The best car won with the 20, and Austin Hill, he still stays on top of the points. Chandler Smith, he moves up to second, and Riley Herbst, he's going to hold his place in third after that race is over. Anything else you want to talk about from the Xfinity race?
No.
All right. Finally, the truck race. Very good truck race. I thought it was great.
I feel like it was the best race of the weekend.
I don't know if it was the best race of the weekend, but I thought it was the best truck race I've seen in years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great. Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, Zane Smith, they were all in the race. Kyle Busch was the only driver that really ended up being a factor for the win. He ran up front a lot of the day.
Yeah.
And then it just seemed like, again, either with the wind, and I think the wind was probably worse for the truck race than any of the 3.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that affected his handling, and he eventually just fell back and wasn't really a factor.
Well, he ended up going a lap down.
He ended up speeding on pit road.
Yeah.
Yeah. The final green flag stop, the veteran, Kyle Busch, ends up getting nailed for speeding on pit road.
Well, both of his races, he had pit road penalties at the last stop.
Yeah. In fact, I have that in my notes a little bit later here. Kyle Busch. Oh, he didn't. He didn't speed on pit road. He had a safety violation on pit road.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know what that meant. Like, they didn't, as far as what I was seeing on the broadcast, they never really covered that any further than just saying he had a safety violation. I don't know what that was or what the reason for the violation was.
I feel like they did say, but it's escaping me right now. So
I didn't hear it. But whatever that was, that definitely cost him a shot at the win. And again, like I said, his handling was going away anyways. It wasn't like he was battling for the lead at that particular point. The truck broadcast, it's a little bit cringy.
Yeah.
And look, Jamie Little is a good pit reporter. And I don't think that she's a good lead broadcaster, lead commentator.
Play-by-play.
Yeah, and I understand what they're trying to do with putting her in the booth, and I don't have any problem with it. She doesn't bring enough energy to be in that role.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mike Joy is 100 years old, and I'd much rather listen to him call a race than her.
Yeah.
And it just is, I don't know, there's not a lot of inflection in her voice. I don't know what it is. It's just something that's doesn't make me go, oh yeah, she's really excited about this. I'm watching something exciting. And then
I feel like sometimes it sounds like forced excitement too.
Almost a little bit. Rick Allen will do that sometimes in NBC.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that all the time either, but regardless, I mean, that's I'm being very picky when I say that for sure, but the other thing that they did that just irritated me, and I hate it when they do this, is when Kevin Harvick does something that really annoys me, is he'll pick up the radio and start to talk to a driver, and he'll be like, hey, it's Kevin Harvick, and blah, 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 go on with his question. Everybody else goes, hey, this is Kevin Harvick, you got a copy, and lets them say it back. So he's dealt with some issues that way of they had no idea that he was trying to talk to them because he didn't get a copy back on the radio. But Phil Parsons was trying to talk to Rajah Caruth, and he asked him a question, and he gets on the radio and says, hang on a second, I got to go down pit road. And that's to check his lights for pit road speed. And it's like, dude, why are you trying to talk to him right then? Just leave the guy alone. Wait, you watch these truck races every week. You know what laps they're going to come down pit road and do this with. Just wait till they get done with that to talk to him.
I know they usually get permission to talk to him like before race and stuff, but the timing is just most of these at least the truck race booth I think is in Charlotte no matter where the race is at.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, maybe except for the pit reporter or something like that.
Okay.
But, so that's what I say. Michael Waltrip and Jamie Little or not? No, Jamie Little and I don't remember who else.
Phil Parsons.
Phil Parsons. Yeah, he just said it, but I think they're all in Charlotte. So.
Yeah, okay. That would make a little bit more sense then. I could see why you wouldn't necessarily know they were coming down pit road at that point. I didn't realize that. So that's a little extra nitpicky also then.
Even in on the Daytona 500, Larry McReynolds was supposed to be a crew chief in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah.
But since the rain got pushed back to Monday, they had him in Charlotte doing his thing, so he couldn't even crew chief that night.
That's wild.
Yeah, so
The way that all works. Just come to the racetrack.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like, he's down there. Why don't you just let him stay down there?
Yeah. There's got to be, I don't know. There's got to be some delay in the broadcast between what they're seeing and what they're commenting on. If Larry's talking about it live, there's going to be even more of a difference there, I would assume. But, we just got to clean up some of the lower series broadcasting, in my opinion. Hey, if you want me to do it, give me a call. You can DM the garage area. Hopefully you don't answer first. All right, Bailey Curry. He was the first yellow. He ended up getting spun around. He was the car. It was the truck that the roof blew off last week. His roof stayed on when he got turned around there, but the bed top came off. And I'm curious to know if there's going to be like a bingo card of how many different pieces of the truck body come off this season, because he's got two of the big ones knocked out right away. If at some point his hood flies off, I'm putting money on that. That's got to happen. Possibly this upcoming week.
Well, I think that part of the bed is meant to come up for like a roof flat type deal.
I don't think it's supposed to come off though.
Not come off, no.
That I understand that.
It's less fastened than the roof is. That's for sure.
Well, unless it was his truck last week, the roof was very much less fastened last week. I thought that was interesting. They tried to kind of pin that on Bailey. Saying that he was trying to make it 3 wide, but the 77 was checking up real hard. I think that's Chase Purdy was checking up real hard in the middle, and that's kind of what seemed like it got him pinched down on the bottom and had him spin out. So I don't think that was on Bailey at all. That's just kind of how that all shook out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't remember it enough now to.
Ty Majeski was a really fast truck. He won stage 1. Appeared like he was going to be somebody that really dominated the race, and he did run up front for a lot of it. You saw a lot of 3 wide racing in the truck series. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
It did seem like the guy in the middle was always the loser, though. When they put it 3 wide, it seemed like the guy in the middle just couldn't hang on to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the downforce factor of the trucks or if that's just the inexperience of the drivers in the truck series. But it was very consistent that in the trucks, the guy in the middle was a loser. In the other 2 series, I didn't see that as much. That when they went 3 wide, and there was a lot of 3 wide racing this whole weekend, that there was any issues with the guy in the middle outside of the truck series. So I'm not sure what the determining factor is there, but I just thought that was interesting. Ty Majeski did also have a little moment on the radio that I thought was very funny. He was screaming that they needed to get tape off the grill because his water temperature was way too high. And they said, dude, you got trash on the grill. We're going to get it cleaned up on the pit stop. He said, oh, okay, I'm sorry for the Johnny Sauter moment. Yeah. So I'm definitely putting that in the memory bank for the rest of the year, talking about somebody freaking out having a Johnny Sauter moment. I thought that was just hilarious. Corey Heim was another really fast truck. He started 25th. He worked his way up to 2nd position in stage 2. And Majeski also ended up winning the 2nd stage. So there was the sweeping of stages there. I think everyone this weekend won stage 1 and 2. Every driver that won stage 1 also won stage 2.
Yeah.
And I think Kyle Larson was the only one that actually won the race, though.
I think so.
Yeah. Man, if Reddick had just got there. The final pit stop did end up happening under green, 33 to go. The 2 of Nick Sanchez, the 98 of Ty Majeski, they were both penalized for speeding. I talked about Kyle Busch having the safety violation. And the 15, who was also Tanner Gray. One of the Grays. I can't remember which one he
15, I think, is Taylor. No, Tanner.
Okay.
And Taylor is in his 17.
Okay. Whichever one he was battling for a top 5, top 10 position. He was running well. And he ended up having a commitment line violation. And that sunk the ship for him that race, too. I'm not sure where he ended up finishing. Rajah Caruth was the guy that ended up coming out with a lead in this whole ordeal. He had a really fast truck all night. He was the pole sitter and definitely was battling near the front with Kyle Busch, with Ty Majeski and those other trucks, Corey Heim as well. He ended up lapping Kyle Busch as he served his penalty. And that they said it on the broadcast, and I thought it was interesting. How many guys can say in the truck series that they've lapped Kyle Busch in the truck series while he was still on the racetrack? That's pretty impressive. Caruth does get the win. Ankrum was battling pretty hard for 2nd position for a while, and it took him a long time to get around that truck. And he was moving. He was running down Caruth for the lead. And part of that, I'm sure, was probably Caruth just not overdriving.
Yeah.
But he had a pretty good lead build up, and Ankrum was mowing him down and just ran out of time to get there. And again, I think that Caruth was sandbagging a little bit in order to just get it to the checkered flag. Gets his first win. Really impressive. He ran a very good race, ran a really smart race, was fast all weekend, and I expect him to be somebody that's a big-time factor this year. Spire seems to be on the rise in pretty much anything they're putting on the racetrack.
Yeah.
They're becoming better and better each week. Obviously, HendrickCars.com signed an extension to sponsor him, and I think Hendrick Motorsports, as you pointed out, first thing off this year, that they've got their eye on him to be a driver for them at some point. If he has a good year,
I could see him at Junior Motorsports.
I could see him at Junior Motorsports next year for sure.
Well, either that or I don't know if Hendrick has that part-time car too, because
the 17,
17 because that's going to have a bunch of starts with the Cup guys. This year they announced that. But
yeah, that's going to be interesting. I wonder if Caruth gets a start this year.
Yeah, that's I can't believe he doesn't.
Yeah,
Boris said he's getting a start in it, so
that's true.
I gotta imagine Caruth should get one.
I could see that for sure. Put that on your little bit of a note there. That I could see Rajah Caruth in the 17 HendrickCars.com Chevrolet at some point this season in the Xfinity Series. Speaking of Chevrolet, what a great year they're having.
Yeah.
They've won all of the Cup races so far, albeit we've only had 3 of them.
Yeah.
But they've won
2 out of 3 Xfinity.
2 out of 3 Xfinity races.
And all the Cup or all the trucks.
Was it all the trucks?
Yeah, because they had Sanchez.
Yep. Who won last
and then
week?
2 Spire. Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch. Oh yeah. So they're batting 1,000 in the Cup and trucks. And
if you count the Sanchez as a Spire car, they're 3 for 3 in the trucks.
Wow, that's impressive.
Because they're like I forgot the name of Sanchez's actual team, but they're like pretty much a
technical alliance.
So that's they got some fast trucks.
Yeah, I agree.
They kind of surprising me. I mean, I knew they were good or at least decent, but of course that was KBM also.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
That could be some of the resources from KBM coming in. So that's something to look out for.
Like I said, that's the best truck race I've seen in a long time. Really impressed with that. Really impressed with how those drivers raced. There was no major wreck fest, stupid mistakes by anybody. I thought it was great. The other thing that I was thinking about just this weekend, outside of anything that happened on the racetrack, was Dale Jr. leaving NBC.
Yeah.
Big time miss for NBC, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that was surprising.
I know that the rumors has it that he's going to Prime Video. I don't know what their setup is in order to broadcast races.
Yeah.
But be curious to see how that works out. Speaking of Chevrolet, do you think that that's where Stuart Haas is going to land? Do you think they're going to go back to Chevrolet?
That's what I would see.
Stewart's got a long history with them, winning championships there. They're not going to renew their contract with Ford. I'll say that right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not happening. Definitely could see them going back to Chevrolet. I'm not sure what their other option would be. I mean, obviously Toyota. Rumor being that Honda's coming in at some point. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but they're not going to make that switch in time.
Yeah.
Like, that you're not going to be able. They're not going to run with Ford or Chevrolet or whoever for a year or two, and then go to Honda if that's the case. So
supposedly it would take another 2 years before Honda could come in because they have to have a body approved 2 years before they come in.
And that's got to be approved in September?
By September 1st or something like that.
Okay, so there's a lot of working things in the factor there, but I think they're going back to Chevrolet. I don't think they're going to renew their contract with Ford. And what would be the deterrent from Chevrolet right now? I mean, they're doing phenomenal in all 3 series. The thing that's going to be interesting is where does that leave Ford in the Xfinity Series, because Stuart Haas is their biggest team in the Xfinity Series. I don't know if they fire Penske back up, if they dump a bunch of support behind some other team and get them to change manufacturers.
Either that or Roush, or I don't know, Roush wants it.
I don't know if they do or not. With Brad over there, I could see it being a possibility.
Yeah.
Don't know how that's going to shake out. I mean, Brad's not going to race for forever. He probably doesn't have a ton of years left. But I don't know. That's going to be interesting. I would want to put somebody in the pipeline if I were him.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking at expanding to a third car. And I don't know if that's what they're looking to do, but I could see that being the case at some point. All that'll be pretty interesting.
back to the Xfinity series, I was curious what your thoughts were of Haley Deegan actually finished 15th with that Ford that they drive.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was everybody knocks her for how she performed in the trucks and stuff, and I think the trucks can get pretty wacky. It's hard to tell somebody, but I think she finished 13th there in her first start and finished backed up with a 15th in a underfunded Ford team, I guess I'll call it. So
okay, I mean that's a fair way of looking at that. Haley Deegan is one of the drivers that gets a lot of hype because she's a female race car driver. And you see that with Rajah Caruth. He's going to get a lot of hype because he's an African-American race car driver. And both of them have a lot of talent. So when Danica Patrick showed up in NASCAR, she got a lot of hype for being a female race car driver. Was not a good race car driver.
Right.
At least not a good race car driver at the Cup Series level.
Yeah.
And I thought that was unfair that she got that much hype just for being female.
Yeah.
Haley Deegan, I actually think the shine's come off the apple a little bit as far as them wanting to promote her.
Yeah.
But I think she is one of the most talented female race car drivers I've seen in NASCAR.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that her performance in that car needs to promote some sort of attention, get some more funding behind her. I think she could be really good. I think she could be somebody that you see win races at the Xfinity Series level. And I don't know about the Cup Series level yet. I mean, that's a whole separate thing on its own.
Yeah.
But I could see her being good in Xfinity cars if she's given a fair shot. Anything else that you wanted to talk about from this weekend?
I don't got nothing else to talk about.
I don't have anything else either. I thought it was a great weekend of racing. A little disappointed in the 22 team, but you're gonna have that as a Joey Logano fan. Where'd Chase Elliott finish, by the way?
12th, I think.
What did anything stick out to you from him this weekend?
I just
didn't go forward, didn't go backwards.
That's about where I think he qualified 11th, so he went back one spot. And I think he got a couple top 10 stage points finished, but I mean, some of that was just kind of late restarts. He restarted there and just didn't fade back to that point. So.
I do think that it's interesting that from the Hendrick Motorsports perspective, that the 5 and the 24 seem to be the two fastest cars still, and the 9 and the 48 are still lagging behind a little bit. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is with that specifically. I'm not saying there's any driver-related issues, other than, I mean, we know Bowman's a hack. Yeah. Got that in.
Bowman did run top 10 to 15 with Elliott. I don't remember. He finished outside the top 20, I think, ended up just inside the top 20, somewhere in there, but I think a couple of strategy plays they didn't work out for him, but
they took 2 tires a couple times and he was up in the front, but he faded pretty quickly. But I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch as the year plays on. If the 9 and the 48 do catch up with a 5 and 24 in their performance, I still fully expect Chase Elliott to win a race this year, probably more than one, and I'm sure you do as well.
I hope so. You want to do your trivia question?
Yeah, I almost got out of here without answering that question. Okay, Joey Logano sat on the front row for 3 consecutive races, and the last driver to do that was in the year 2000. The driver was Ricky Rudd. Oh. That's going to do it from inside the garage area. Thank you guys for watching, and those of you that listened as well. I hope that you'll like, comment, subscribe, and keep following us for more NASCAR news and action here in the garage area.